It's just about time for the All-ACC preseason list to drop for the 2024 football season. Today, we're going to discuss who we expect to see on it from NC State.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's Tuesday sponsor is FanDuel. Make every moment more. The playoffs are gone, and all we have now is Major League Baseball and the Olympics. But this summer, that's where FanDuel steps in. FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com in order to get started. Happy Tuesday for the second time. This is our second Tuesday episode for you. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, ACC kickoff was this past week, which means the ballot goes out for the preseason All-ACC football squad. Kenton, we're going to discuss the NC State players we expect to have a real shot at landing on the All-ACC preseason list. Any players that jump off the mind immediately?
You know, the first one that comes to mind is obviously Aiden White. That's the guy that I think he's a premier corner in the country, not just the ACC. And I'll tell you, I think that the ACC's had some fantastic corners. If Aiden White is left off that list, that would be one of the bigger misfires by ACC media in quite some time. Because, I mean, what more can the young man do? What more can he possibly do? I get it. Everybody loves the interception numbers and all that. But to me, I think it's bigger for a corner to have teams objectively say, hey, listen, he's on the field. That side of the field's gone. It's gone. Anything that you think of throwing outside the numbers to that side is cooked. Please, let's leave it alone. Let's try again another day. But today ain't it. I think that's a big deal in terms of, who we should be looking at in terms of an all ACC type of guy. So I think Aiden White, definitely first teamer, definitely all the things, all the accolades. I don't think there should be a problem there.
There is relatively stiff competition for all ACC corner this season, but I believe any list that does not have Aiden White on it is simply unserious. And I know this is a Wolfpack-centered show, so we're going to sound biased when we say this. Aiden White is one of the best cornerbacks in the country. This man has not allowed a touchdown in pass coverage in over 2 seasons. That doesn't just happen. Honestly, he's doing NC State a rather large solid and returning for one final year in Tony Gibson's defense. We all know his ability to shut down an entire half of the field and the way that helps the defense leverage themselves in specifically tight situations. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, Aiden White is one of the 2 best corners in the ACC. Now, being that Kent and I get votes for this, we'll share a whole list on Wednesday after all these teams are revealed, but Aiden White was on my ballot. I would assume he's probably on Kenton's as well, because that's where he belongs. Aiden White is undoubtedly one of the top 2 corners in the league. Who's the second player for NC State that you expect to find on an All-ACC list?
I definitely expect Big Belton to be on the list. I definitely expect him to be on there. He's the second guy that I would say has a good chance at first team as well. I mean, he's a hell of a tackle. He really is. And he's getting better year over year over year. I think the constant improvement is something that's going to be vital in terms of how folks view him. Because I do think that he took a little bit of a leap towards the end of last year to where it was like we started to have that feel of a stalwart left tackle where you don't really have to ask yourself like, man, is Brennan Armstrong going to be safe back there? Man, are we like, can we run to the left side? You know, right side's normally the power side, left side's normally the finesse side. Are we able to run that way? I think he started to kind of put it all together toward the end of the season, but it's more so about, can he keep that momentum and train rolling and the perception around it? Because I don't think, and this is with all due respect to Belton, I think he's a fine player. I think he's a wonderful player. I know he's going to play for a while on Sundays, but I don't think that he is the most impactful right now for NC State in terms of, above a average replacement or whatever the case may be. But I do think that he's probably the guy that's second most likely to end up on one of these teams.
It's a bad year for Big Escalade. And we've seen his name peppered all over the PFF lists and preseason, all college football offensive tackle ratings. You usually find his name in there, and that means he's going to be within the top couple of the ACC. Anthony Belton definitely made it on my list. He's going to be an integral part to this offensive line this year. We've talked about how important it is at keeping Grayson McCall upright this year. That's going to start with the offensive line, and more specifically with Anthony Belton up there at the offensive tackle position. So it's a really big year. He has a lot weighing. I shouldn't say weighing, but he has a lot hanging in the balance, I should say, for his NFL future this season. I would fully expect him to step up and answer the call. I'll take this next one. A third player that I'm fully expecting to see on here, Zeke Correll. And maybe that's a little bit unconventional, but we do actually get votes for centers in the All-ACC as well. Zeke Correll has my vote. He was one of the top centers in the entire transfer portal this offseason. NC State was able to pick him up, a massive get coming over from Notre Dame. He was highly recruited coming out of high school. Notre Dame routinely puts out very highly rated offensive linemen. And Zeke Correll joining us for his last season here in Raleigh, he's going to be an instant impact guy when you're talking about that offensive line. He's going to be the captain, the centerpiece. Much like it will with Anthony Belton, a lot of the offense is going to start right up front, especially with the man that's going to snap the ball in Zeke Correll.
Absolutely. I think Zeke Correll is a fantastic third choice, but I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think the third guy that I know, he may not be first team because of the fact that I think that the media, or not even the media, but the people who put this list or the votes, the players we could vote for together, were a little, I don't know how they quantify certain positions, especially for defensive linemen and edge rushers, is Davin Vann. Davin Vann is a guy that I think the world of. I bought Davin Vann stock early, and folks, I'm living good. I'm eating good off that Davin Vann stock, the way that he played all of last season. I mean, I remember the play against Connecticut where he got weeded out the hole was literally one of his only bad plays that you could look at and say, hey, this was like on you, buddy, all season. Other than that, he was everywhere all the time, all at once. What a defensive lineman he is. But I believe they had him listed as a defensive end, which, again, he's one of those guys in the 3-3-5 scheme and the way that we use him. He's all over the place. I think that he's definitely going to make one of the list, and he should make the list. But, I think that all of the guys we named will make it, but we've got to talk about some that are maybe, they should have made it, but just barely didn't make the cut, or probably won't make the cut, rather.
I think one more that absolutely should, but it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Casey Concepcion. He's a freshman.
He's going to make it. There's no way he doesn't make it first team. There's no way. We'll see. I mean, you only get 3 votes for wide receivers for the whole conference. I don't know. We'll have to see how that shakes out. He was definitely on mine, and bias aside, he was one of the best wide receivers in the ACC last year. So if you don't put him on there, who are the 3 receivers that you put on there? I could see Xavier Restrepo for Miami. I could see it. I could see it. I could see. Let me think. I can't really think of too many guys that were like wildly more impactful than KC. And even except Restrepo, I don't think he was wildly more impactful. I just think he had a higher volume of numbers there.
He was just getting force-fed.
And his numbers weren't distributed in the same way in terms of receiving and rushing and all that, because there were many games where, or not many, but there were multiple games where KC was our leading rusher. Other than Restrepo, I can't think of another guy that, like, KC is so good. In my opinion, that's the reason that we left him off of this, because, like, he's like, to me, Aiden White has to be first team, where you got that one wrong. And the Belton and Van should be, somewhere highly rated here. But if KC is not first team, we ride at dawn, gentlemen.
Of course, we're going to feel a little biased. KC absolutely feels like a gimme for us, but I think you'd be surprised how much the rest of the country is still kind of sleeping on a guy like Casey Concepcion. And really, I don't know what else he could have done. Freshman All-American, first teamer All-ACC. I think he was ACC Rookie of the Year. He did it all, not just in the award category, but also on the field for us. He was more or less a hero for that offense in the back half of the season. So he absolutely should be on the list. I would expect him to be on the list, but I've seen a lot of people doubt him this offseason. So if he's not on there, I wouldn't exactly say I'm surprised. I'd be a little irritated, but it definitely would add more fuel to the fire for KC here in his sophomore year. those are some of the expectations we have for Wolfpack players. The All-ACC preseason list will be coming out on Wednesday. On one of our Wednesday episodes, we're going to be discussing the rest of the picks that we had and why we had them. Maybe we'll see additional Wolfpackers pop up after the release of those, or maybe we'll have more snubs to talk about. We'll have to wait and see on that. Coming up next, we're getting into some mailbag comments from last week after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor of our second Tuesday show is FanDuel. Look, we all love sports, and we can't wait for them to return this fall. But until we get there, that's where FanDuel comes in handy. FanDuel lets us keep the sports going whenever we want. All we have to do is open up the app and dream up any bets at any time you're in the mood. This summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Middle portion of our second Tuesday episode. Now time to get into some of our mailbag left over from this past week. Here we go. This first one comes from user, and then looks like some alphabet soup there. They say, I live in Myrtle Beach. My son went to Coastal, and I was even the radio play-by-play announcer at Coastal before they began football, so I know the program. Grayson McCall is a sleeper Heisman Trophy candidate with a big if. If he stays healthy, if our O-line keeps him upright, and the fabulous pieces around him play near average, we're going to the ACC Championship game and the CFP. It's like you guys have said over and over, this is the greatest season of expectations ever. Cautiously more excited than ever. This is coming from someone that's very familiar with the Coastal Carolina football program. I'd also have to imagine you've probably seen him play several times in person down there on the teal turf. I've seen very similar comments from a lot of Coastal fans directing toward NC State fans saying, you guys got a good one. We're really excited to see what he can do with the P4 opportunity because we're going to miss him down here in Conway. He was a great quarterback. The guy was the 3-time Sun Belt Player of the Year. That's really hard to do regardless of conference. And so seeing this confidence come from all the Coastal fans, it kind of makes us as Wolfpack fans get just a little bit more excited. It makes the expectations rise just a little bit more because people with the familiarity of his game and his capabilities, they're so confident that he will translate all of that up to this level at NC State and perform at a high level. Yeah, man, we can't wait to see it.
You know, I think that this is so interesting because the ifs are if he stays healthy, the O-line keeps him upright, and the pieces around him play near average. I don't think those are insane ifs.
No,
I don't think those are insane ifs at all. I think that there are many, many worlds where we see all of these ifs play out. And I'll tell you, if this isn't Grayson McCall's burner page, I like the way you think. Whoever sent us this comment, I love the way you think.
That'd be an excellent way to lay out a burner. You know, I live in Myrtle Beach, and I've seen McCall play quite a couple times. That'd be hilarious. Next one here comes from Toast803. They say, NC State has the ability to play the best defense using their offense this year. Keeping defense off the field should be easier this year. So this is a really interesting point, and I've seen this tossed around a pretty fair amount over the course of this offseason. And honestly, I do believe it to be true. Now, not to denigrate Tony Gibson's defense at all, because we know the type of DC he is and the type of defenses that he is surely to roll out year after year after year. But all of the chatter about what we did bring into the transfer portal, we revamped the wide receiving room, you bring in an experienced quarterback in Grayson McCall. The backfield is perhaps more talented than we've seen in, maybe even close to a decade. Like that could actually be real. You could actually see the offense carrying water in a lot of these games. And I heard Coach Dorn say at the ACC kickoff, the goal that they've set for their offense this year is to average at least 31 points a game. On paper, you might think they're capable of even more than that, but 31 points a game based on that defense that I just mentioned with Tony Gibson, that will more than likely win you a lot of ball games. And actually, Coach Dorn said, I say that because this defense has not given up 31. And he's more than likely right. The only scenarios where we gave up 31 or more last year, I can think of Notre Dame, and maybe that was the only one. That game just got completely out of hand because the offense was not able to get anything done. If our offense is averaging 31 plus, I like our chances in all the games that we're favored in. And then you look at Clemson, you look at Tennessee, you could find us in a shootout.
You know, I agree with everything you said there, but I want to push back on one thing, okay? In terms of this being our most exciting backfield in a decade or most talented, we had Nyheim Hines, Reggie Gillespie, and Jay Sam all in the backfield at once. We didn't know how good we had it in that moment. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, the Bam Knight Ricky Person duo was pretty good in their own right as well. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you. This offense does have the ability to keep the defense off the field. And I'll tell you this, as a former defensive player, there is nothing better than when that offense, even if you, regardless of what you do on your drive, you know that your offense has the ability to sustain some success, to have a type of thing where it's like, hey, we're not having to worry about, oh my God, we just had a 10-play drive and they're about to get a 3-and-out, aren't they? This is about to happen, isn't it? That offense this year has the ability to, like you said, Toast 803, keep this defense off the field. And to me, that is the best possible defense you can run. The one where you all are sitting on the sidelines, drinking some Gatorade, looking at the clipboard saying, hey, when they run this, this, and this is the adjustment we're going to make.
We know the saying that the best offense is a good defense, but I would also say that sometimes a really good defense is because of the offense is lighting up the scoreboard. If the offense can give you a 2 to 3 touchdown cushion in all of your games, how confident is that going to keep your defense throughout the entirety of the season, especially a defense led by Tony Gibson? That's more than enough to carry that swagger, punch the clock, and then go to work every time the possession flips. So the offense being really good this year, that will open up a lot of opportunity for NC State to make some noise this season. Next one comes from Karshi Ali. Says, I agree with everything you guys say, but you're missing one thing. Dave Doeren still has to change his coaching mentality. He still likes to win ugly, meaning 10 points or less. He has a propensity to take his foot all the way off the gas if he goes up 2 scores. Until he's comfortable winning by 30 plus, I believe we'll still lose games we're supposed to win. I can give many examples, but I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Well, we do know what you're talking about. We've touched on this a couple of times before. Dave Doeren does have a tendency to, I guess you could say, keep some lesser teams in the game longer than they should be. One game that really unfortunately comes to mind was the home loss to Boston College.
Boston College, senior night.
Yeah. We went up immediately. I think we were up 2 touchdowns basically right out of the gate. And then we just let them linger. They lingered. They kept the score really close. There was a penalty on Drake Thomas near the end of the game. Regardless on if it was a penalty or not, we should have never found ourselves in a situation that Boston College has the opportunity to drive down the field and win the game in the fourth quarter. Those types of games absolutely cannot happen this year in 24. I think it was Joe Ovius actually asked Dave this question at ACC Kickoff. He kind of alluded to what I already talked about. They're looking to score 31 points a game, and they feel confident in that number because the defense is not going to give up that many. I still think there's also something to be said, in this new era of the 12-team college football playoff, style points may or may not come into play. Because if it comes down to a committee deciding your fate at the end of the season, if you are playing those really close games against Louisiana Tech or Syracuse or a really ugly Wake Forest team, perhaps they will be more inclined to hand it off to someone else, like an Ole Miss or Utah. You get the point. I do think there is some truth to this, that this team is going to have to figure out how to put teams away and leave no doubt. I think that's a very valuable skill for championship football teams. And if this team wants to win a championship or maybe multiple championships this season, they're certainly going to have to do that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this much. Last year, we don't win that Virginia Tech game if Dave Doeren has that same mentality of take your foot off the gas.
Right.
It took keeping your foot on the gas repetitively so that if you watch that game, it wasn't that Coach Doeren took his foot off the gas at the end. It was legitimately like Virginia Tech was making some amazing plays. Kyron Drones made some throws that are like, hey, the defense is designed to give up that specific throw. And if the quarterback can make that throw and the receiver can make that catch, you tip your cap and you say, hey, you're going to have to do it again, but more power to you. And we came out on the end as a winner. Don't get me wrong. That game was, I believe it was a 4-score or 3-score game that got down to a 1-score game at the end. That's not ideal, and that is not something you ever want to see. But Virginia Tech, to me, played one of their best halves of football against a Power 5 team all season last season in that second half against NC State. And with that in mind, you watch that and you say, if we had taken our foot off the gas earlier, we very possibly lose that game. It's very possibly one of those epic comebacks that we're on the wrong end of. So, I do agree that the mentality needs to stay there and that, every game will not be like Virginia Tech. And if there are multiple games where you end up seeing yourself saying, that was a little too close for comfort, even though we dominated, then there absolutely is a question to have there. But I think he's starting to grow out of that.
It's the meme of Coach Yost from Remember the Titans when he's showing his bottom teeth. Leave no doubt. They need to remember the Wolfpack, not the Titans, but the Wolfpack. Coming up next, we're going to get into our second half of our mailbag catch-up after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second sponsor of the day is Ibotta. Are you taking that dream vacation this summer but dreading the cost? With Ibotta, you can get cash back on all of your purchases. You can spend more time making memories this summer and less time dreaming about them. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. You can earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies and even toys. You can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 back per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or maybe that fancy dinner that you've been craving. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and so many more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta and using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back using code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Ibotta, IBOTTA, in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, all on Ibotta. And our third sponsor of the day is Factor Meals. Warmer, sunnier days are calling, and you can fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. You meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never-frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. No matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from, every week you'll always have new flavors to explore. You can make your day delicious from breakfast all the way to dessert, staying fueled with easy, nutritious options. And while doing this, you can treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and even some blackened salmon. The most important part is keeping kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in just 2 minutes with no shopping, no prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Head on over to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box. Plus, you can also get 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com. Last couple minutes of our second Tuesday episode, rounding out the remnants of our mailbag. Let's get into it. This one comes from Lynn Williams, 5543. They say, Grayson, to take your new look ACC statement to a different level, I would agree with Kenton that sometimes it is cheaper to keep her. However, to do so, I believe the thought amongst several administrators is that we need to cut out a couple of the lower performing players in the conference. No names mentioned. Well, we will mention some names. Kenton, do you feel that later on down the road for the ACC to quote unquote survive, perhaps they toy with the idea of dropping some of the lower performing schools?
You know, I struggle with that idea only from a standpoint of, I get it. You know, you want to say, hey, we want to keep only the cream of the crop. But to me, it just feels a little too business and cutthroat, which granted, I get it. I've said for a long time, college sports are not amateur anymore, and this is basically professional sports. So I understand that idea of, hey, companies that are in the red instead of in the black, we may have to get rid of them or whatever the case may be. I understand that. But this is the part of me that's human and going to be a little inconsistent right now, right? I'm going to be a little bit of a hypocrite here because while I understand that this is a business, I still don't want to see some of those quote-unquote lesser players or the underperformers in the conference get cut from the conference, because where do they go? With all due respect, where do they go? And do you lose some of the character of your conference chasing the next dollar? That's not really something I'd like to see, which granted, to some extent, we already have with the additions of Cal, Stanford, and SMU. No disrespect to those teams. Happy to have them. But to say that we didn't lose anything out of the soul of the conference by kind of breaking out of that regionality a little bit, that'd be a lie and a half.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree. I think that would get way too far into the weeds and certainly more cutthroat. The conference would probably like to endure. And the ACC is a very proud conference. They're very proud of all of their members. They do a great job of inclusion across all schools and not only catering to a Clemson or not only catering to Florida State, because I'm sure they would like it that way. The ACC does do a really good job of continually trying to prop up all of the schools, all the member institutions that are part of the conference. However, I'm going to turn heel here. If there were a school that I think would be ripe for the chopping block, Boston College, I'm looking at you. And again, I don't want to get nasty here. It comes across as a little bit pompous, but what exactly does Boston College bring to the table? I mean, just being honest here, they are mediocre to less than mediocre in seemingly every sport other than I assume like field hockey. I don't even know if they have a lacrosse team. I think they do. Regular hockey, I'm sure they dominate, but hockey,
they have a good ice hockey team.
But we don't have hockey in the ACC. Basketball, they're mediocre. Baseball, mediocre. Football, they've been mediocre for a really long time. They do have a little bit of a storied past, but it has not shown in quite some time. I think Boston College is probably one of those schools that comes to mind if the ACC were to drop off any schools in the near future. Again, I don't exactly think that it would go down that way. I think the conference would have to fall apart first for a school like Boston College to have to branch off that way. But there are a couple schools that you look at a little bit funny. It is fitting that some of those schools tend to stay quiet in terms of conference realignment when it does come up, probably because they're a little bit nervous. And I would be too. I wouldn't, and I still don't want this ACC conference to fall apart because it is a very proud tradition. And last one here comes from Albert Bennett 224. He says, from what happened in basketball and baseball, I'm going to need an NCSU support group for football. Well, Albert, you've come to the right place. For anyone that was not with us through football season, it's no secret that football is our very favorite sport to cover on this program. We basically have the entire football season mapped out in terms of programming. We know what we talk about on a week-to-week basis. We have Kenton's Locked On Look of the Week every Tuesday. That's an excellent feature of this program. We also have our live pregame recaps after every football game. We thoroughly enjoy those. All the comments and everybody that jumps in to watch those with us. It's such an incredible feeling of all Wolfpack fans celebrating a win or kind of trying to drown your sorrows in a loss. But I say all that to say, welcome to Locked On Wolfpack. We cannot wait to join football season with you all. And we have another season right on our heels.
Speak for yourself, Grayson. My favorite sport to cover on this show is women's cheese roll. You understand? Whenever we can talk about the legend, the one, the only Abby Lemke on this show, I'm going to take the opportunity, baby. But in all seriousness, that's what we're here for, right? We're going to talk about it, good, bad, and different. You know, nobody can accuse us of being a sunshine crew because after the Duke game, we very specifically gave some very specific critiques about things that needed to improve. And nobody can, critique us for being hey, this is a doom and gloom squad that just hates NC State. And, you think that they're Dirty Foot Club fans the way that they're always hating on NC State. Because after the Duke game, even while we were reading folks their rights and saying we were outcoached, outplayed, and outclassed by Duke, what did we say at the end of the episode? This team can win every game going forward. They can lose every game going forward. And people called us crazy when we said it. They said there's no way this team wins out in the regular season. And what happened, Grayson? How'd that regular season end for the Pack?
5-0, baby. And might I add, using reverse psychology, we willed that team to a 5-0 record to finish the season. We purposely picked them to lose every game because the mojo needed to change, and 5-0 took place after that.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, you're in the right place for a support group of realistic fans, and we're going to bring this thing, we're always going to bring you what it is, what it ain't, what it could be, and what it came to the best of our ability. We're never going, our motto on this show, no fluff pieces, no hit pieces. We're going to cover it straight exactly how we see it.
If we're great, we're going to celebrate that every single time. If we stink, we're going to tell you we stink, and then we're going to explain why we're doing the stinking. Because, again, our favorite thing to do on here is to just keep it real with Wolfpack fans. We love seeing all the opinions, all the think pieces on the quarterback play, the defense, and all the above. Our favorite thing to do is interact with folks during the college football season, and we are just 1 month away. We cannot wait to get into it. Thank you all for joining us for our second episode of Tuesday. That'll do it for us for the entirety of Tuesday. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments down in the comment box, and hit that subscribe button if you have not already. We will see you all tomorrow for 2 more episodes coming up on Wednesday. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.